The hardest betrayal isn't when strangers reject you. It's when your own family quietly decides, your existence is an inconvenience. My name is Daniel Brooks. Last August, my entire family gathered for the biggest reunion we'd had in over 15 years. My parents were there. My brothers were there. My sisters. My nieces. My nephews. Even relatives who lived thousands of miles away flew in for the weekend. There was a professional photographer. A beautiful lakeside resort. Matching family shirts. A huge banner that read, "Brooks family, together is our greatest blessing." But there was one person missing from every single photo. Me. Not because I was sick. Not because I was traveling. Not because I chose not to go. I was never invited. At first, I thought it had been a mistake. Until I accidentally heard the real reason. And I realized my own family hadn't forgotten me. They had voted to leave me out. Not because I had done something wrong. Not because I had hurt anyone. But because, according to them, I wasn't successful enough to be seen standing beside the rest of the family. What they didn't know was that the decision they made that weekend would destroy our family forever. And months later, they would all come knocking on my front door, begging for something only I could give. I grew up believing my family wasn't perfect, but that we would always show up for one another. My parents, Richard and Helen Brooks, raised 4 children in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. My oldest brother, Michael, became a corporate attorney. My second brother, Stephen, owned a successful construction company. My younger sister, Emily, married into a wealthy family and rarely worried about money again. And then there was me. Daniel Brooks. The only public school teacher in the family. I taught American history to high school students. The paycheck wasn't impressive. The hours were long. Some days I bought school supplies with my own money because I couldn't stand watching students go without. I never regretted it. Not once. Every year my former students came back to visit. Some had become firefighters. Some were nurses. Some had started businesses of their own. They always said the same thing. "Mr. Brooks, thank you for believing in me when nobody else did." To me, those words were worth more than any luxury car. At least, that's what I believed. Every August, our family held a reunion. It wasn't optional. No matter how busy life became, everyone showed up. My mother always said, "One weekend together is enough to remind us who we are." So when July arrived, I waited for the usual group message. Nothing. I figured Michael was busy planning it. A few more days passed. Still nothing. I texted Emily. "Hey, have you guys picked the date for the reunion yet?" She replied almost instantly. "Not sure yet. Michael's handling everything." That seemed normal. So I didn't think much of it. The weeks rolled by. School started again. I buried myself in lesson plans, grading papers, and preparing my students for a new semester. Every now and then I wondered why nobody had mentioned the reunion. But I convinced myself everyone was simply overwhelmed. Then one Friday afternoon, I stopped at a small grocery store on my way home. As I was loading vegetables into my cart, I heard someone call my name. "Mr. Brooks?" I turned around and saw a young man smiling. It took me a second to recognize him. It was Tyler. One of my former students. He shook my hand with a huge grin. "I just wanted to thank you again," he said. "I graduated college last spring. None of it would have happened without you." Hearing things like that always made my day. We talked for a few minutes about his new job. Then he casually smiled and asked, "So, how was the family reunion?" My mom showed me some of the pictures online. It looked incredible. I stared at him. "What reunion?" His smile disappeared. The one at Lake Evergreen Resort last weekend. For a moment, the entire store felt silent. I forced a small laugh. You must be confusing my family with someone else. He pulled out his phone. I don't think so. Then he opened a photo. There they were. My parents. My brothers. My sister. My nieces. My nephews. Matching navy blue shirts. Huge smiles. Standing beneath a wooden sign that read, Brooks Family Reunion 2026. I wasn't in a single picture. Tyler looked back and forth between me and the phone. His face turned pale. I'm so sorry, Mr. Brooks. I smiled the best I could. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Not even close. I finished shopping without remembering a single thing I bought. The drive home felt longer than ever. I kept telling myself. There had to be an explanation. Maybe the invitation got lost. Maybe someone forgot to call me. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. Deep down, I wanted to believe my family would never leave me behind. I had no idea. The truth waiting for me was far worse than being forgotten. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the reunion. Maybe there had been a mistake. Maybe someone forgot to call me. Trying to calm myself, I opened Facebook. Photo after photo appeared on my screen. My parents were smiling. My brothers looked proud. My sister and her children wore matching Brooks Family Reunion t-shirts. There wasn't a single picture of me. Then something unexpected happened. My niece Rachel accidentally uploaded a behind-the-scenes video before deleting it. I watched it out of curiosity. The camera had been recording before everyone realized. Then I heard my name. Rachel quietly asked. Are we sure Uncle Daniel doesn't know? My older brother Michael laughed. Relax. He thinks we skipped the reunion this year. Another relative sounded nervous. What if he finds out? Michael answered without hesitation. He won't. Besides, my business clients are here this weekend. I don't want people asking why one of my brothers is just a school teacher. A few people laughed. Then my father spoke. Michael's right. We worked hard to build this family's reputation. And then came the sentence I'll never forget. Daniel just doesn't fit the image anymore. No one defended me. No one said my name again. The conversation simply moved on, as if excluding me was the easiest decision they'd ever made. I closed my phone and sat in complete silence. For years, I believed my family respected me. That night, I realized they had only tolerated me. But I still didn't know one thing. Who had convinced everyone to vote me out? 3 days later. Someone came to my house with the answer. 3 days later. Someone knocked on my front door. When I opened it, I was surprised to see my cousin, Sarah. Her eyes were red, as if she'd been crying. She stepped inside and quietly said, Daniel. I'm so sorry. I looked at her. Just tell me the truth. She took a deep breath. This wasn't an accident. It was planned. My heart sank. Sarah explained that 2 months before the reunion, Michael had gathered the family on a video call. He told everyone that important clients and wealthy friends would be attending the reunion. Then he said, if Daniel comes, people will start asking questions. They'll wonder why one of the Brooks brothers never became successful. At first, Emily disagreed. She said, he's still our brother. But Michael kept pushing. This weekend is about protecting the Brooks family's reputation. One by one. Everyone stayed quiet. No one wanted an argument. And silence became agreement. Sarah looked at me and whispered. I should have called you, but I was afraid of causing problems. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't blame her. Because the people who had truly betrayed me were the ones I'd trusted my entire life." After Sarah left, I sat alone looking at the thank you letters my students had written over the years. For the first time, I stopped wondering why my family was ashamed of me. Instead, I asked myself a different question. If success made them treat their own brother like a stranger, were they really successful at all? A few months passed. I stopped calling my family. And they stopped calling me. Instead of thinking about what I'd lost, I focused on the people who had never made me feel unwanted. My students. One Friday morning, the school principal walked into my classroom with a smile. "Daniel," he said, "there's someone here to see you." Outside the classroom stood a young man in a U.S. Army uniform. The moment I saw him, I recognized him. It was Ethan. He had been one of my students 10 years earlier. Without saying a word, he hugged me. Then he smiled and said, "Mr. Brooks. I just wanted to thank the teacher who changed my life." Before I could respond, several more former students walked into the hallway. A doctor. A firefighter. A software engineer. A police officer. One by one, they thanked me for believing in them when they were ready to give up. The principal watched in silence. A local reporter who was covering the school's annual appreciation day captured the entire moment on camera. By that evening, the story was everywhere in our town. The headline read, "Teacher honored by former students whose lives he changed." Thousands of people shared the story. But I had no idea. Someone else had seen it too. The very family who once said I didn't fit their image. And suddenly, they wanted me back. 2 days after the story aired, my phone started ringing. First, it was my sister Emily. I didn't answer. Then my father called. Then my mother. For the first time in months, everyone suddenly remembered I existed. That evening, there was another knock at my door. When I opened it, my parents, Michael, Stephen, and Emily were all standing outside. No one spoke for a few seconds. Finally, Michael smiled awkwardly. "Daniel, we made a mistake." I looked at him but said nothing. He continued. "The reunion shouldn't have happened without you. We'd like to organize another one, this time with you as the guest of honor." I asked one simple question. "Why now?" No one answered. Then my mother quietly admitted. "After people saw what your former students said about you, everyone keeps asking about you. They want to meet the teacher who changed so many lives." That was all I needed to hear. They hadn't come because they missed me. They had come because the world had finally seen my value. I smiled politely and said, "When you thought I was just a teacher, I embarrassed you. Now that other people respect me, suddenly I'm family again." No one could look me in the eyes. I thanked them for coming. Then I gently closed the door. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel rejected. I felt free. Because I finally understood something. Real family doesn't decide your worth after the applause. They stand beside you, even when no one else is watching. And that's the day I stopped chasing my family's approval. And started appreciating the family I had already built through the lives I'd changed. 6 months later, I heard that another Brooks family reunion had been planned. This time, an invitation arrived in my mailbox. Inside was a handwritten note from my mother. "Please come. It won't feel complete without you." I read it twice. Then I quietly placed it back in the envelope. I didn't hate my family anymore. But I also couldn't pretend that nothing had happened. Some wounds don't need revenge. They simply need distance. Instead of driving to the reunion that weekend, I attended the graduation ceremony at my school. As I walked across campus, dozens of former students stopped to hug me. Some introduced me to their spouses. Others introduced me to their children. One young woman smiled through tears and said, "Mr. Brooks, if you hadn't believed in me when I was 16, I never would have become a doctor." Another former student shook my hand. "You taught me that success isn't about money. I tell my kids that every day." Standing there, I realized something my own family never understood. A person's legacy isn't measured by the size of their house. It's measured by the number of lives they leave better than they found them. That afternoon, I sent my mother one final message. "I truly hope everyone has a wonderful reunion. But I already spent my day with the family I built through kindness, patience, and love. I wish you all the best." She never replied. She didn't have to. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. If this story taught me anything, it's this. Never let someone else's definition of success decide your value. Because the people who judge you by your job, your salary, or your car will never understand the wealth of a life lived with integrity. Sometimes, the greatest family you'll ever have is the one you earn through love, not the one you're born into. And that was the day I stopped trying to fit their image, and finally became proud of my own.